to episode 55 of FountainCast, a bi-weekly broadcast brought to you by the Fountain Hills Chamber of Commerce, striving to be your one-stop fountain of information regarding your local business community here in Fountain Hills. I'm your host, Jill Haislip. Be sure to stay tuned after the podcast to hear about upcoming chamber events. In today's episode, I'm speaking with Josh Logan of Guardian Training and Consulting. Josh and his wife Karen started Guardian Training and Consulting 4 years ago. They both have impressive backgrounds. Josh is a former police officer as well as a military veteran. His experience includes the United States Air Force Security Forces, member of the Tactical Response Force, AZ Post Certified Field Training Officer and Instructor, NRA Certified Instructor, and Active Shooter Threat Instructor, to name just a few of his many certifications. Not to mention his wife Karen is also a former police officer, as well as a U.S. Coast Guard Certified Merchant Marine Officer and a Federal Air Marshal. You can learn more about Karen on episode 11 of FountainCast. Welcome to FountainCast, and thank you for your service.
Thanks for having me. It was my pleasure for serving this country. I appreciate it.
Well, we very much appreciate it. Without people like you and your wife, who knows where we would be.
You deserve it. You all deserve it.
Well, thank you. As I had mentioned, we have had you guys on FountainCast before. Karen did episode 11 and talked a little bit about Guardian. But why don't you go ahead and give our listeners who are not aware of Guardian a little bit of background on what is your business?
Sure. Yeah, Guardian was kind of formed, with it wasn't my wife at the time. Karen and I, we met at a local gun range teaching, and we're teaching just different types of courses, from safety and awareness to stop the bleed, CPR. We're teaching, firearms classes, obviously, private instruction. And we started teaching together, and we just realized that Karen can reach certain demographics better than I can, and then I can reach certain demographics better than she can. It's not that one's better than the other. It was that symbiotic relationship. And so then when we left that local gun range teaching, and we just started Guardian. And it's not to build something better or build a better mousetrap. It was, how can we build a different business model that people really want, that more concierge-based service, that one-on-one or very small groups. Because a lot of people come to our classes, whether it's firearms or stop the bleed or CPR, safety and awareness, and it's kind of an uncomfortable subject. And a lot of people are concerned about asking this stupid question, and especially in a bigger group. And then what we realized is, through making smaller groups or intimate groups, like i.e. families or groups of neighbors and environments like that, it allows people to let their guard down and be vulnerable and going, hey, this is what's going on in my life and I need to take action. And by way of taking action is just being trained and being prepared for whatever that is, whether it's I wish to have a firearm in my home, or I don't want to do any firearms. I just want to be safe, and I want to be able to drive down the street, and if there's a car accident down the road, I can help somebody and be that guardian in that world. So that's how the genesis kind of started. Was we just wanted to do it a little differently and offer more of that personalized service than sitting in a room of 25 people. That's just that's how Guardian kind of started, and then it's just blossomed from there.
I really like that you touched on the fact that it's very personal, because it is. I think all the services that you guys offer, from firearms training to CPR to stop the bleed, are all very maybe uncomfortable type of situations, and you want more of that one-on-one approach, because people don't know necessarily how to approach it. And so I think having that smaller class and closer connection, it makes it feel better.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's essentially what we're doing right now, is what we do in a private lesson, right? Having an honest conversation and down to earth. And our job is to meet the person at their level. It's not to say, hey, catch up, or hey, this is our lesson, our rigid lesson plan, and we have to hit every single, I just don't do that. What we found out was teaching the person, and instead of just the lesson plan. That's where we've found, and our client has found success in being more confident in the world they live in.
That's great. You touched on a few of them. We've kind of talked about CPR, stop the bleed, and your firearms training. Are those kind of the brunt of the services that you provide? Yeah,
that's the core of it all. In our Arizona concealed carry class, learning the laws of the self-defense, that's another part of our core. We started to branch out, and we found that simulation has been absolutely blowing up from a perspective of where we can put a real world scenario in front of you, whether it is a traumatic event. It could be a home invasion. It could be a carjacking. It could be all the way up to an active shooter incident, or just something as not as simple but as a car accident. How to talk to people. That's the biggest thing. So we can set up our simulator similar to the screen here. Obviously, it'll be just white screen, and we can then pull up those video scenarios. That's been huge, where we can bring that mobile simulator from TI simulation, and we can assess where people are at from a perspective of preparedness. And then our goal is to obviously get that heart rate up and put them in an acute, what we call body alarm response, because the only way you're going to know how you're going to react in those critical incidents is to be tested and to be assessed. Everybody has, as Mike Tyson said, everybody has a plan until you're punched in the face. And that's coming from the champ himself. So the biggest thing is we want to see where you're at, but it's more importantly, you want to see where you're at. And so that's been a big part of our business, but now we're even shifting into corporate parties where we have a partnership with C2 Tactical, where people can go on the range and shoot whatever guns they want in a very safe and responsible and down to earth environment, and then shut the range down and make sure all the safety protocols are in place, block the range, and then we can go and do happy hour, right? So we can create a warm environment and almost an ambassadorship to our industry that otherwise most people are very intimidated. And it's a reality. And we just don't want that. I've seen it too many times done in our industry, and our industry at times doesn't do a good job of that, creating that ambassadorship to whether it's firearms or stop the bleed or whatever the case may be. It's a tough subject to talk about.
Absolutely. I think there's a lot of stigma around your industry and your business. So that's why I invited you to come and do another podcast with us, because I wanted us to really dig deeper so that our listeners and viewers now get a better understanding of it's not just all about going out and shooting guns. There's so much more to it. And if you don't understand everything that you offer, people just kind of push back from you. Yeah. And so I'm glad you touched on even the car accident type of situations. That's something I had no idea about, and that's very interesting. You don't know how you're going to feel in that situation, and so putting you in there.
Exactly, and that's why we have our bleeding control kits. That's why when you take a Stop the Bleed class from us, you're actually buying our custom kit from North American Rescue that has tourniquets, trauma shears, chest seals, and gauze, and all of the different tools that truly can save a life. That doesn't involve firearms. A majority of our life-threatening bleeding events, because the number one cause of preventable death is bleeding. And so a majority of that is hiking, biking, camping, housework, right? You look at the kitchen. You look
That's true.
Right? You look at the kitchen, you look at the garage. The two most quote-unquote dangerous places where life-threatening bleeding can happen, and none of that has to do with firearms. And that's the goal of that is removing that stigma that we're not just the gun people. It's a lifestyle. That is one aspect of what we've done, and my wife and I have spent a majority of our career teaching that firearms and tactics. But it's more than just that. We have a whole division devoted to medical, led by our director of medical operations, Tim, who's a 25-year paramedic. It's not just Josh and Karen. It's more than that.
Yeah, tell us a little bit more. I've looked at your website, and you have a very impressive group of instructors. Yeah. Tell us a little bit about some of the other folks that are involved.
Yeah, so Chip is one of my really good friends. He worked at my local police department as a hostage negotiator. So he was the guy on the phone talking people down in their crisis. And if you met Chip, he is one of the most exceptional speakers, and just a down old country boy. But the minute you underestimate him is the minute that you'll be pleasantly displeased. But one of the best instructors I've ever met. Tim, our director of medical operations, just an absolute savage when it comes to medical and his knowledge, like the encyclopedic knowledge that he has of truly saving people's lives. I mean, if any given point, if you see a helicopter flying around this valley and it's an air ambulance, he's probably on it. Wow. He's doing that every day. Chase is one of our medical instructors. He's a wildland firefighter. So right now, as the fire season starts ramping up, he's going to go off and fight wildfires out in the wilderness. We have Marv, really good friend of mine. I think he's 32 years. Don't quote me, Marv, but 32 years in law enforcement, working mostly in the campus police role. A lot of people think, oh, campus police is like, no, he deals with a lot of problems I didn't even deal with as a street cop. So keeping students safe on campus. He had active shooter threat response, very robust knowledge, not only from that tactics side, but at the firearm side. Eric is one of our instructors as well. He worked in Army Special Operations. Just leave it at that. Worked in special operations, doing a lot of things for our country that we just can't talk about. But the knowledge that he has, not only from a textbook perspective, but our entire instructor staff doesn't just understand the textbook aspect; it's an experiential aspect. So that's where our Guardian, our staff is all about. Is I don't hire new instructors. I don't bring on people that I don't know. It's because one, it's obviously to keep the brand safe, but also I want to make sure all of my instructors have that experiential knowledge and understanding that when we talk about critical incidents and making those decisions, they've lived it.
Right. I think that's great that you have people who can speak on it because they've done it, and then they can share their knowledge from you from, I've walked those, walked in those shoes, and I can tell you what this looks like. People don't know what they don't know. And so you have an audience here to be able to share with them what they don't know, either about your business or something specific about the services that you guys provide. What should they know? What do you want to make sure everybody walks away from with this?
I think the biggest thing is assess your situation that you're in, and look around in your environment and just realize and have the courage to go, you know what, there's some things lacking. And just give us an opportunity to help you. That's the biggest thing. Is we started this company because a lot of people give us unconventional, problems and issues, and our job is to provide, as a consultancy, is to provide unconventional solutions. So typically the more diverse and more, I wouldn't even say complicated, but the more diverse that issue is, typically that's the more of the challenge that we love. Because we spent our career in service. Our entire staff has spent an entire career in service, whether it's country or community or whatever the case may be. And so just give us that opportunity to give us a shot. That's the biggest thing. Is if you want your standard problems and standard solutions, then there's other places to go. If you're like, you know what, this is really concerning to me and I want to be vulnerable, give us the opportunity to make it right and to help you. Because that's the biggest thing is that's the biggest hurdle that people have to realize is, I may not have the solution to this problem. If don't ask me to rewire my house. I'm going to hire an electrician,
right.
And it's going to be Fountain Hills local. I have to realize, you know what, I'm not up to the task, and let me hire somebody that or bring somebody in that has that expertise.
Where would somebody start? I guess that's it.
Sure.
Where would somebody start with you guys?
Yeah, so we're on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. Yes, we're on TikTok. We're obviously we have our website, so it's gtctrain.org or readytoday.org. So both of those domains we have. So check out our website, Facebook, Instagram, or just the chamber website, whatever the case may be. We're on a multitude of different LinkedIn as well. So there's really not a space in social media world as well as in our web world that we're really not on. And just reach out to us. When one of those factors, if people are like us, who's the web designer for and the social media marketing guy? I'm your guy. So if you reach out either by phone or social media, you're probably going to get me. And then the other thing I get a lot of is I get the phone calls. I typically field the phone calls, and a lady calls me, and they're like having this awkward conversation with the bearded dude for like 5 minutes. And then I finally kind of feel through the line. I'm like, let me just ask you a question. Is it because you don't want to learn from the bearded dude? And there's some women that don't, and that's okay. And they're like, I kind of want to learn from your wife. I'm like, that's fine. I don't take that personal. She can reach a demographic better than I can.
Absolutely.
And it's different. And it's not that men can't teach women and women can't teach men. It's just it's really what the client wants.
Sometimes there's just a comfort level.
Of course.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And again, I can walk into a group full of SWAT dudes because I train law enforcement still to this day. I can walk into a group full of SWAT dudes that are knuckle dragger Neanderthals, and I can set the tone real easily. So it's all about emphasizing our strengths and then sending our weaknesses to somebody else and delegating those. So there's a myriad of ways to reach us. Give us a phone call, text message, email, whatever the case may be, and just tell us what you need, and we'll do what we can. If I can't do what that's in that parameters, I have a full network of people that I am not afraid to say that's just not on our wheelhouse. I have a full network of people that I trust that are vetted that I can send you to.
What would you say to people who are listening to this and are very interested, but they just don't know how to kind of begin that? They don't know how to pick up the phone and call you and say, I want to learn, but I don't know what I want to learn. So where would maybe a novice start? Would it be maybe one of your safety classes, maybe your Stop the Bleed? What would you recommend?
If you're asking me, what I would recommend is call us and set up a private lesson, because our private lessons aren't just shooting lessons. Our private lessons aren't just talking about medical. It's anything. I've done private lessons on scenarios. Like let's tabletop different scenarios. Hey, what if then? Because we have the time and opportunity to do so, because it's an hour by hour basis. And so imagine we're the personal trainers of this world. That's the best way of explaining it. If you want to take a Zumba class, that's what the 25 person, class is. So set up a private lesson with us, which could be a consult, right? An hour consult, and go, let me ask you the tough questions that I have to ask. That's tough for me, right? And if it's something within our wheelhouse and it's within our scope of offerings, we can definitely help you. But that's where let's just set up a 1 hour. We can do it anywhere. We're a completely mobile training organization.
Oh, that's great.
We specifically did not create brick and mortar, because what we found out was you can't scale past that. And so we're traveling. We just came back from Vegas and did a conference. I'm going to North Carolina in September. I've got 6 different proposals in 6 different states that I'm traveling with. So we can meet you at your home. We've done that before. We've done in-home consults. We've done in-home concealed carry classes where you get a group together, and we've done concealed carry classes. We did a Stop the Bleed and CPR class for a cul-de-sac of really? People. They're like, hey, we just want to get together and you come to us. That's what we specialize in. So there's really nothing off the table when it perspective to learning. And we want to make it comfortable to the client. So if we have to come to your home, or we meet at the chamber here, right? I've done so many different, just these conversations right here. And it doesn't involve the physical act of whatever that is. It's like, let's have an honest conversation, and that's vulnerable, and let's learn together. Because Karen and I and our entire staff prescribes to the concept of always a student and sometimes a teacher. And it's simply from the perspective of Bruce Lee said it the best, as well as that the teacher is not a giver of truth. The teacher's job is to be a guide for the student to find their own truth. Wow. And so all we're asking is, hey, just let us be your guide and help you in your journey from the beginning to wherever you want to go. Because a lot of our firearms classes, our private lessons, is what brings you to Guardian. And right now they slide the gun case across the table. I open it up, the gun's still wrapped in plastic, and the receipt's on top. And that's our starting point. But then I just came back from Vegas and worked with SWAT and law enforcement. And so my job is to adapt to the level at which the client is at. And I've found out through this industry, there's very few people that can do that. And for me, that's the challenge, and that's what makes it fun, is connecting with the person and then helping them in their journey. And you and Karen do a great job of that. I've seen you guys work with a multitude of different people being here at the Chamber of Commerce, and you really adapt to each person based off of where they're at, what they want to learn, what they don't know. I think that makes a big difference for people in their comfort level, because it's an uncomfortable situation I don't know, Stop the Bleed. So I would go into that maybe a little timid, not knowing what to do. So the comfort level makes a big difference. Yeah. And that's where we focus on. That's the goal, is to not to dumb it down, because I hate that concept. And to get on my soapbox for literally a minute, I hate the concept of teaching people to the lowest common denominator. And I don't like that, because if I walk in and I say, hey guys, I got to teach you the lowest common denominator, I literally called all you stupid. Yeah. And how are you going to start a relationship, much less learning from that person, if you just got called stupid? So we're going to teach you from the level that you're at, and we'll review it, and we'll say, hey, does everybody have any questions about this, in a safe environment that people aren't afraid to raise their hand? Yes. Because we've all been in those situations where, hey, does anybody have any questions? And you're like, I am not going to raise my hand. And then you go to the instructor after they're done, right? Yes. And everybody's encountered that. And our goal is to not have that environment by creating and facilitating an environment of safeness, not just from a physical aspect, but let's ask the questions. So
You touched on a variety of different classes that you guys offer. I've been on your website. You always have some type of class listed on there that you guys are teaching, which is great. But is there anything specific as far as events that are coming up that you'd like to highlight for our guests?
Yeah, so we have an upcoming concealed carry class. We have 4 different really locations around the valley that we're working with. So we have a concealed carry class next weekend, next Sunday at AZ Guns, the 29th. We have a Stop the Bleed class utilizing our Stop the Bleed kit. That's June 5th. Then June 25th, that's a Saturday night. We're doing a low light and happy hour. So it's going to be a low light on the range, learning how to employ flashlights, employ firearms with flashlights, because a majority of attacks happen at night.
True.
How do you integrate a handheld flashlight while you have a firearm in your hand safely, but then also talking about different lighting aspects? July 8th, we have a private event. Obviously, that's not on our website, but we have a company that's hiring us to go to C2 Tactical, use our VIP experience area that's BYOB. So they have their own, C2 has their own BYOB license in our VIP area. So we're renting the whole area out where they're going to spend about a couple hours on the range. I've got a couple industry buddies that are bringing, rifles and pistols and silencers and just cool stuff to spend about a couple hours there in a safe environment. And then we're going to come off the range, shut the range down, and then we're going to go into our simulator and just have fun, right? Play games, zombies, and just have fun and just keep it light. Bachelor Pat is going to be offering the catering. So
wonderful.
Eric and I are working together on that. We're going to have brisket and pulled pork, and it's going to be beautiful. And then we're going to be hiring a bartender, and then they're going to be serving drinks to the clients. So it's 2 hours of shooting and 2 hours of happy hour. Obviously, I'm all about shooting, then drinking in that exact order.
Yes.
That's how professionals do it. I have no problem with shooting and having fun with the guns and then shutting it down, closing it down, locking everything up, and let's just enjoy the evening.
Right.
And that's how professionals do it, and that's how I prescribe to do it. But yeah, we're doing companies, we're doing bachelor parties. I mean, there's no limit to what we can do with that.
So what he's saying is give him a call. Him and Karen can make an event based off of whatever your desire is, of what you're wanting to learn in the group that you're wanting to get together.
Exactly. Our parameters, I mean, from a business perspective, is the hard nose. And if people have done business with me, it's the same spiel. Illegal, immoral, unethical. Straight up no. Everything else,
right.
We can figure it out from there. If it's inside those parameters, that's just no. I didn't serve my country and our community to do that. But outside of that, typically the crazier the idea, the more fun it is.
I like that. Tell us a little bit about a simulator. A lot of people don't know what that is.
So it's hard to explain. It's very difficult. On our YouTube channel, I have a lot of different videos. So subscribe and like to our YouTube channel and follow notifications. But essentially what it is, it's a video projector onto a screen.
Okay.
And it has tracking cameras. And then you have either a 3D printed Glock-esque gun that doesn't reciprocate. It's like a duck hunt gun. But then we also have 2 Glocks that are real Glocks, but they've been retrofitted to run on CO2, and they all shoot infrared lasers onto a screen, and the tracking camera captures that. So we can pull up real world scenarios, and then I can control from the computer, I can control different people on that screen. So if say for example it's a robbery and the guy's threatening you with a knife, you can point a gun at him. In the state of Arizona, you're lawfully allowed to threaten that. That's what we teach in our concealed carry class, that where you can and can't carry, and all that use of force. This is the practical application of it.
Okay.
This is what you know, and this is how we're going to assess it. Then say, for example, he points a knife at you and he says, give me your money, right? You may be justified in threatening deadly force by pointing your gun at him and saying, and if you give good commands, I can control that subject by giving a desirable outcome like compliance, dropping the knife and putting their hands up. If you don't have good commands or good command presence, then I can give an undesirable outcome like hostility, and they can try to hurt you. And then if you have to use deadly force by way of neutralizing the suspect, then you neutralize the suspect. Then once everything's over, we're going to replay the whole scenario. We can do a complete after action and play that whole scenario in real time or frame by frame. And then if you do shoot on the screen, we can track every shot of that.
Wow.
And I'm going to ask you, just like an investigator, all these shootings that I've been to in my career, in my law enforcement career, the simple question is, tell me what happened. And while we're doing that, I'm going to put a pulse oximeter on your finger, and we're going to assess your heart rate. So because it's an easy way to assess somebody's acute response. And so we start the class, even before rewinding, before we start the class, we get everybody's resting heart rates.
Okay.
And then we put to the scenario, everybody else in your group is watching what you just did. And so then we put the heart rate monitor on you, ask you, tell me what happened. And then you've got to walk me through, before I even play it out, you got to walk me through what happened. And that's what an investigation would be. And then we walk through it, and then we do an complete, it takes about 5 to 10 minutes per person, complete after action, while everybody else is watching. And then you kind of get the one, you may get the one guy who's like, well, that's not what I would do. I was like, well, then you're next.
Exactly.
You're next.
It's easy to sit back and say, well, I would have.
Correct.
But until you're there in that situation.
But yeah, and it creates a positive environment. And because people realize, they're like, wow, I maybe would have acted that way, or maybe I wouldn't have acted that way. Well, then let's see where we're at. And everybody gets a different scenario. So it could be one person gets a home invasion, the other person gets a carjacking, the other person gets somebody that is in their business, right? Or all the way up to an active shooter situation, similar to the recent events that we've had. And it's not to be the hero. It's simply to say, where are my priorities at, right? Because my priorities are to keep my family safe.
Yes.
That's at Josh, right? My queen, my wife, even though she's an Amazon warrior queen, my job is to keep her safe, as well as my princess, my daughter. And then, my family and my friends, and then me, because obviously there's self-preservation in there, because I want to be a dad. I still want to be a husband, all the way to my community. And your priorities are the way it is. And that's why our logo is the way it is. It's the way our logo is set up, from that perspective is this is you as a guardian, and the center is left blank because that's why you're becoming a guardian. And if you look on our About Us, the last part is if you click on our About Us on our website, the first thing you will see is not me, is not my wife and our staff. It's the actual Webster's Dictionary definition of what a guardian is. And it has nothing to do with firearms. It has nothing to do with hurting people. It's to be simply protecting. Yeah. And that's what our ethos is. What are you doing today to prepare for tomorrow? And
I love that. I think that's great. Give us a few quick safety tips for people that are listening, just things that they can keep in the back of their mind.
I think first and foremost is awareness, and it's not a paranoid sense. Since this time we've been sitting here, like there's been cars passing, there's been people walking by, and it's not to be that hyper vigilant. It's just to see who's coming and going. Be aware. And so if the biggest thing we preach is avoidance. Okay. The best critical incident you can ever be in is not being in a critical incident.
I would agree with that.
Right. And again, I've been in many in my career, and there are some that I had looked at and I went, nothing what I did was unjustified or illegal or immoral, but from a tactics perspective, right, of making those decisions in that moment, I probably could have pumped the brakes and I wouldn't have been in that situation. So being aware of your surroundings is not being paranoid. It's simply just being aware of who's coming and going. And then the next thing that doesn't make you a ninja, but it steps you up from the average person is if you see something that doesn't look right, feel right, smell right, walk away from it.
Trust your instincts?
Trust your instincts, right? A great book that Karen and I recommend is a book called Gift of Fear. Okay. That fear is a gift given to you by a higher power, whether you believe in God, Allah, crystals, the force, whatever your beliefs are. It's given to you by that higher power because it's that instinct 9 times out of 10 is truly right. And then the 1 time out of 10, if you walk away from it and there's nothing there, then there's no problem.
Great.
Then great. The problem is we can't quantify what doesn't happen. Yeah. And so like true prevention can't be quantified, right? And so being aware of your surroundings, and then if you see something that doesn't look right, feel right, or smell right, and just walk away from it. And however inconvenient it may make, right? Because I talk to realtors a lot, right? They go into a house that doesn't look right, feel right, and they get attacked. And I've talked to victims that literally taking a report and they're like, it didn't look right, feel right, and I still went in. And I'm like, that's okay. It's nothing we can do about it now. All I can do is take the report. And that's why Karen and I do what we do, because we truly care about our community. We truly care about our country. We truly care about the people that we serve. And that's why we call our clients the Guardian family, because we're a family. Like we need to, it's not plate carriers and multicam. It's, we just need to have a care for each other as human beings. And that's the biggest thing, because you look at, just coming back from Vegas, you look at the Route 91 festival. We did a 4-hour debrief on the Route 91, the Mandalay Bay shooting. And it's sad that it takes moments like that to bring a community together, that hashtag Vegas Strong, that it takes seminal moments like like 9/11. that it takes seminal moments like that to bring our communities together. But you look at that case study and you're like, it's just unfortunate, but that's our goal. It's not to be prepared for that. It's just to say, you know what, I just want to be a better human being and take care of either whoever that is, right? You becoming a guardian for whatever that is.
You and Karen are very passionate, and we appreciate that. And we are very lucky to have you guys here in Fountain Hills. But as Josh mentioned, they do go everywhere in the valley. Yeah. So if you are in Phoenix, true, across the country, so don't be hesitant to reach out. Tell us again your website where everybody can find you.
So it's www.gtctrain .org or readytoday.org.
Okay, and touch on real fast about your guys' nonprofit before we sign off.
Yeah, so Karen and I, being first responders, and almost our entire staff being first responders, we include first responders into the military world as well, because our first responders that we know of are the men and women serving our streets and our communities, yes. But also our military is the first responders to something overseas. So we had the unique opportunity. It was started by Linda Cavanaugh and Bob Scarpetti. Those are the first really two people. And then Linda Belnier, I'm going to destroy her name. But Bob was Chicago PD. Linda Cavanaugh obviously is the wife of John and New York Port Authority police officer. There was 9/11. So they have a first responder Christmas tree on the Avenue of the Fountains. And they were going to give it up. And they were like, we're just done. It's been good. It's been fun. And so we were given the unique opportunity to take that project over. So in that process, we created a 501c3, and it's called Guardian First Responders. And so it's a 100% nonprofit. Karen and I don't take any money whatsoever. It's money into the bank account and money out to the Christmas tree and for the sign in front of the Christmas tree for all our donors. And then anything that's left over the amount for the Christmas tree, we donate to a first responder charity. So last year was the 100 Club of Arizona. What the 100 Club does is provide monies to fallen first responders' families that are killed in line of duty. Wow. This year coming up is going, if we have funds left over, is going to the Under the Shield, and that's a stress coaching service that actually Karen's certified in, to a completely private line for those people for those first responders that are in crisis from a mental health perspective, because I've lost too many friends. To their own hand, and it's near and dear to my heart. So if we can help the community out to show awareness of our first responders and help those that need it in another 501c3, that's what we do.
That's wonderful. Well, thank you guys for everything that you do. We really appreciate it. Thank you for your service as well. We appreciate that. And thank you everybody for watching. That will wrap up episode 55 of FountainCast. Once again, thank you so much for listening and now watching today's episode. Don't forget to share our show with friends, neighbors, clients, and anyone in your network. And be sure to like, rate, and review our show wherever you listen to your podcasts. As I mentioned, a new feature is that you can now watch the video on the Chamber's website as well as the YouTube channel. Guardian Training and Consulting has a variety of services they can provide to you and your family, whether that be Stop the Bleed, CPR AED courses, safety classes, home security inspections, firearms safety courses, concealed carry, use of force simulation, and private lessons. There is definitely something for everyone. No matter if you are a novice to the industry or a trained professional, Guardian specializes in awareness, safety, mindset, tactics, and training. Give them a call today. Now for upcoming Chamber events. Today is the Chamber Lunch Mob at 11:30. We are meeting at Dr. Jody's Integrative Consulting, and our lunch location will be announced here. Hope to see everybody out today. Our next ribbon cutting is Thursday, June 2nd for Desert Title and Tag. That'll be at noon. And then the Elliott Group on Thursday, June 9th, also at noon. FHYC Karaoke Contest qualifying is on June 2nd at 6 p.m. and that'll be held at Bachelor's Pad. Be sure to check out our Chamber website for additional details on all of our events. Reminder, our Chamber of Commerce will be closed on Monday, May 30th for Memorial Day. In honor of those who have selflessly given and honored our great nation, we thank you. As today's host, Jill Haislip, thank you, Fountain Hills, for continuing to be the best community.